Hey everyone, welcome back to Buzzworthy. I'm your host, Shlacey Harris. I dive into the rare stories entrepreneurs tell about building their businesses, but most importantly, themselves. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Buzzworthy. I'm your host, Shlacey Harris. And today we have Kamran Ahmad from Hydrosphair. Hopefully, I said it right there, Cameron.
You
Who's
did.
going to talk to us about his entrepreneurial journey? Thanks for being here, Cameron.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, so it's been interesting conversation, jumping into sort of doing this podcast with you, talking about a little bit about communication and how you've eventually become a better communicator as stepped into this business world and just getting that practice all the time, being an introvert yourself. But before that really happened, like what do you think set you up to become an entrepreneur today?
Yeah, well, I'll start at the very beginning because I think it's very important to the story. Um, I'm actually the son of immigrant parents, so we my family came here in 2000. We've lived and grew up in Hamilton basically my whole life, so we've been here since 2000. And growing up, my dad, in his childhood, he was back home. He did a lot of businesses as well. And when he came here, just like every other immigrant, they struggled to kind of find their place. And so business was kind of his thing. And here he teamed up with my uncle. They started a computer store. It was a computer sales and service store. And so growing up, I would, visit the store as a child, probably from age 10 and onwards. I would be going to the store every so often and look at everything that he did. And that was sort of my introduction to not only business, but like technology as a whole, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of where my interest developed from. And I have a 4 year older brother. And so me and him, we kind of had a similar upbringing. We both would go to the store and sort of I would think of him as like my mentor in a way because he was 4 years older than I was. So everything that he was learning, I was learning 4 years before everybody else my age was learning. So I kind of had that advantage of having that kind of older mentor, um, and had that kind of 4 year lead in terms of what I was absorbing from my surroundings. And so yeah, growing up, I saw what my dad was doing. I developed the interest for entrepreneurship and business, and I knew that growing up, I wanted to uh, build something of my own, right? And I was always into building things. At first, it was physical things. I just wanted to build it. I love tinkering with things, and slowly that developed into kind of more or less building something like as a whole, like some like an idea, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's yeah, that's what kind of got me into it. And over the years I've tried several different businesses. Um Early in university I tried a 3D printing business and that sort of it didn't fail. I used it as a way to learn. But because a priority was finishing school, I had to kind of let that go. And I'd
Mhm.
be happy to talk about that a bit more later. But yeah, after that, I was big into fitness. So tried an online fitness coaching business, kind of lost interest there due to the saturation in the market. And then now, all these years later, after I've been in the industry for some time, I've been able to kind of utilize that knowledge to get to where I am today with my current business.
That That's incredible how, you've started your entrepreneurial journey inadvertently through your dad by helping him run his own business as well too, from such a young pivotal age. And so one of the questions I had as you were telling that story is as a kid helping out with your dad's business, was there any moment where you just didn't want to be part of the business and just go hang and ride and play, games with your friends in the streets or something like that versus working in the business, or it really just had a pull for you at the time?
Well, I never really had an interest in actually joining the business, and that's one thing that I look back and think that there were some times where I feel that they would wanted me to kind of pick up the family business, right? But I always had my own interest in mind, and and I wanted to pursue my own ideas. So definitely. Um, Going to the store and hanging around. It was more of just kind of hanging out type thing. It wasn't necessarily working in the business that I wanted to do. But there was a time where I did formally actually work as an employee, and that was about a year or so on the payroll and kind of got some experience that way when I was in my university days. But yeah, no, as a younger child, I was more on the playful side, I would say.
Yeah, that's okay. But I think it's just, simply the exposure that you can see that someone else that you're close to, someone that I'm sure you respect, has created something out of nothing. And that's the dream that you've sort of talked about inadvertently. How do you create something out of nothing? And it started with small things, like you said, just tinkering around, maybe just fixing things around the house, taking certain things apart. And all of that like really rolls into like problem solving, right? Which is ultimately what every business is based on in some capacity. Like whether it's a problem or it's an opportunity to change it, to make something different in that way. And so as you got older, you said you started working on different ideas. You went into 3D printing, which 3D printing is still a relatively new industry, in terms of that. So what made you enter 3D printing at that phase of your life?
So 3D printing, when I got into it, it was like new. It was very new.
Hmm.
And so at the time, I just like because as a child, like I said, I was so into building things, but I lacked the tools and the resources, right? So 3D printing came along, and it was this new technology that allowed you to just kind of make whatever you wanted as long as you had the idea, right?
Hmm.
So that was really interesting to me. So I really wanted to get into it. And so how I kind of fulfilled that was at the time I was looking for a co-op, which was a mandatory requirement for my program. I had to do co-op. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one in time.
Hmm.
So I got a special permission. I looked at the opportunity. I said, okay, I got special permission from the school to start a company in 3D printing just so I could fulfill my hobby in 3D printing. And it got approved. I had some professors who were in charge of overseeing my business for that duration of the co-op term. But essentially, I used it as an excuse to get into the hobby. Because I figured, it was a little expensive at the time. The technology was still new, so I was like, how can I access it without just spending money, right? I wanted to kind of make something out of it. So I was like, okay, well, um, I'll start a business and I'll try to use it to make money. So that's what we did. And obviously you're young, and so at the time it was we were very like focused on the technology itself and tinkering around with the printer and creating all these cool things. So the business side kind of neglected a little bit, but eventually near the end, we did start picking up the business concepts as well, and we did that through the mentorship of our professors at the time who were overlooking us. Um, so that lasted for about 4 months. That was the term of the co-op, and so it was obviously very short. So there wasn't a lot of time to fully develop the business as a whole. And then obviously because my priority was finishing school, it's just sort of I just had to kind of let it go. And now all these years I'm thinking about getting back into 3D printing. So who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? The options are endless for you because, first and foremost, to know, and I guess you can tell us, how did you know that you can create your own business and sort of create your own co-op in that way? Like, was that an option that counselors or even your program put out there, or did you just have the idea and reached out to them and asked them if you can do this thing?
I had heard stories of people doing that. I didn't
Mhm.
know anyone personally that did that.
Mhm.
And so I just sort of took the chance and asked and hoped for the best, basically, right? As they say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Yeah.
I took the shot and it worked out.
That's actually so interesting to me because I don't think I've ever personally or actually heard someone creating their own co-op opportunity through their own business, which I think should be more of an option for students in a lot of ways because when you see the typical reels or you hear about internships and co-ops people get, like a lot of times they're really just doing the grunt work. Like even for myself, I was trying to decide whether I went to nursing school out of high school, and so I said I'll do a co-op at a hospital to find out is this something I really wanted to do? And at that co-op at the high school, they stuck me in this like 4x4 room with shelves from floor to ceiling. And all I did for 2 weeks was say my ABCs because I was just filing things. Like I was filing paperwork all day long. Like that does not help me answer the question that I went into answer. But I looked for other ways to kind of answer those questions for myself. And so I eventually quit. I quit after 2 weeks. I was just like, I can't do this. I can't say my
Wow.
ABC anymore. And I mean, that's at a high school level. So you then being able to say, I'm not necessarily finding an opportunity, I'm going to create my own opportunity it's just like the entrepreneur in you sort of like blooming at every different stage where you're just simply, you're just like, okay, if this hurdle is too big, I'll just, bulldoze over here and do move on to the next stage and create my own.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think gives you the confidence to go around creating these opportunities for yourself? Because a lot of people are scared. They're just like, what if it fails? What if it doesn't happen? Are people going to say yes to me? How do you manage and work through some of those questions that might hinder that motion forward?
Yeah, that's a good question because I can see like I'm married and my wife actually she struggles with that a lot actually where she's always fear she has this fear of things not working out and I've been the exact opposite my whole life where
Mhm.
I don't really I don't want to say I don't care, but I'm like, what's the worst that could happen, right? The worst that could happen is somebody says no, and then you just move on, right? So I know that that is a little tough for some people to overcome, um, but I've just kind of naturally been like that, and if one door doesn't open for you, another one will. So it's just constant. Like I said earlier, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you have to take as many as you can. You have to take every opportunity, and you have to then when you're open to receiving as many opportunities as possible, then you're able to judge and determine which one is the best for you. And the more opportunities you have, then the better it will be for you, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about being welcoming to those opportunities and just letting them be there. And then you can decide, okay, I want to take this one or I want to take that one. But they won't appear unless you go after them.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly what a perfect segue into what you do right now and how you actually came across that problem sort of inadvertently, but you kind of just always kept yourself open for opportunities. Tell us about that moment where you realized there is an opportunity for a business that will eventually become Hydrosphere.
Mhm. Well, it's funny because I would actually I want to give credit to my day job. Um, it would be it would this company wouldn't exist without them, and uh, so it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship almost. So basically, I've just to give a little background on this, I've been working in the pharmaceutical sector in pure water for almost 6 years now. So I've got a lot of experience in water filtration, water purification, automation systems, control systems, electrical, all kinds of stuff, right? Um, and I want to say I do play a pretty significant role at that in my job. So, and I find deep enjoyment in it. I really like what I do. So, I think it was within my first year or second year at my job where we had our carpets cleaned in our basement, and we had to dry out the space so that mold wouldn't grow and whatnot. So we set up a dehumidifier in the basement. We waited a little bit, and it soaked up all the water and all the moisture. And I emptied out the water reservoir from the dehumidifier that night, and had kind of a realization that, oh, I'm dumping out water. Where did this water come from? The dehumidifier literally soaked it up from the air, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, I have some experience in this field. I know how to filter water. I know, how to control the system and the process, and I know how to design the machines. I know a little bit about all of this stuff, right? So it's like, okay, could a machine exist that creates drinking water from the atmosphere, from the air? And so that's kind of where the idea came from. And I just happened to be in the position of knowing a little bit about how to make it work, how to bring it to reality.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a mixture between a combination of my past experience, the right time, and obviously having the right people around me to help bring it to fruition. Um,
Yeah.
so at the time, I talked to my one of my cousins. He was interested in doing something on the side as well. So we had a chat. We did some research in the market. We saw there were a few other companies that were doing this, and so we had to uh, find our differentiator and what sets us apart. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how the company was born. And here we are, 4 years, yeah, almost 5 years later into the
Wow.
business.
Wow. And it all started from just cleaning your carpets, just
Yeah,
annual
yeah,
activity. And
that's right. That's right.
yeah, and it's quite mundane of something that so many people experience on a regular basis if you have carpet in your house. But I think it's your curiosity that really allowed you to see the opportunities within that. And so once you started to do the research and saw that, hey, there is a space for me in this. I am still very excited about this. I now have a partner to do this work with me. How did you sort of get started in defining your business and working together with this partner to start to bring your business alive in a way that's differentiated from the market?
Yeah, so I would say like we've been in business for almost 5 years, and I want to say the first three. were pure research and development, designing and testing. And so, yeah, there was a lot of upfront investment involved. We both had to come to an agreement. We signed a shareholders agreement, and we agreed that, we would put in X amount of money each to help fund this growth and this development. And so that's kind of how we started things, how we bootstrapped the company up into where it is. And so, yeah, a lot of it was initial market research. We went out, we tried to do surveys, tried to talk to as many people as we could. We talked to nonprofit organizations who are involved with providing water to remote communities and developing nations. We talked to agriculture spaces, and eventually we did find our market. We eventually came to the the conclusion that this particular market would work well for us, and that ultimately ended up being the travel trailer recreational vehicle market,
Mm.
as well as a bit of the tiny house community and those off-grid style homes. So that's kind of where we're operating today.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to um, define a niche. That's been a very big theme throughout this season of the podcast is how do you define a niche that you can truly serve and serve them wholeheartedly in every aspect and really cater to the challenges and the problems unique to them. So, when you think about the tiny home market and off-grid homes and, your ideal customer, did you ever think they were too small of a group to serve?
There, yeah, I mean, there were definitely thoughts about that. But then as you look deeper into it, you eventually realize, oh, there's actually a lot of companies that are doing this, right?
Mhm.
And obviously they're surviving or not surviving, but they're thriving as well. So if these companies are thriving and I'm selling to these companies, and I should be able to thrive just as well, right? So
Yeah.
the world, it's a very big place, and when you do the market research, you come to realize that there is money to be made in anything, really. So
Yeah.
nothing is too small. No market is too small. You can literally succeed in almost anything nowadays.
Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of it really falls back on do you truly understand that market and the customer and their needs? And so when you came across this market that you were going to focus on, what were some of the unique aspects to this market that you said that this was going to be the one for me and you felt like the match for the business was just right?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example with the travel trailer markets. So it is a difficult market because our technology, it requires a power source, and generally when you're on the road, you're hitching your travel trailer with you to spend time off grid somewhere in some remote area. You need power to run our equipment. So, it was, finding those strategic companies that were developing these really advanced trailers that had full, like, integrated solar systems that were able to generate power and enough power that they could then run our equipment. So, these were some of the challenges that we faced and we're still working towards, but yeah, like you said, we have to work really closely with these customers to really figure out what they need and develop exactly what they want. And that is something that sets our company apart from day one, is that we said that we're going to work very closely with our customers to really kind of customize and design the solution for them. And that has served us really well so far because it's extremely customer centric, and we're providing a very specific solution for these customers who are then also now coming back to us and saying, hey, we want more of these, right? So it's yeah, it's really helped us out.
I'm really, really happy to hear that, you've gone so deep with your customer that they're coming back, that they're probably most of your sales are like referrals and, because that network, when you tap into a niche, it's such a powerful thing because they're usually very tight with each other. And when one buys in, they kind of all just start to buy in
Yeah.
quite organically. Has that been your experience?
That's been 100% our experience. So what actually ended up happening was we sold a our first project within the travel trailer space, and all of a sudden the word got out, and everybody that they knew that they were talking to were saying that, oh, we're installing this water generator, it creates water from the air, so when you're on the road, you don't have to worry about water anymore. You can make your own. And all of a sudden the word started spreading, and people that they knew were now reaching out to us and saying, hey, we heard about you guys from this company, and we're interested, and some of their partners are now working with us. So it's kind of yeah, that's exactly been our experience.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy for you guys that you went on this journey not knowing where it was going to take you. And now to have that inflow of customers. That's every business owner's dream, right?
Yeah.
Because hunting for customers is hard.
Yeah.
Selling, the grind of selling, the money you spend to convert somebody is hard. But when they start to find you, that I think that kind of says, you're in the right business, you're doing the right things, and you sort of just have to follow that progression and growth that goes with it. So when it comes to you, you still have your full-time job and you're building this thing. Where do you get the energy to do it? Because we all only have 24 hours in a day. And you're doing both these things at the same time, and you have a family as well. Walk us
Yes.
through what that looks like and how you create space for everyone.
Yeah, and I think this is really important as well because you can't, yeah, like you said, you only have 24 hours in a day, so you have to find the balance to do everything. And obviously you have commitments with your day job, so you can't start to fall back on those commitments, but you also have commitments at home. But the commitments at home are a bit more flexible, right? So you can kind of you have a bit more power as to how you structure those as opposed to your workplace commitments. So I've done a lot of optimization in my life when it comes to finding that balance to make time for everything. So
Mm,
I am luckily in a very good position that my work allows me a good amount of flexibility. They're very understanding. The people I work with are great, and they've been very supportive of what I'm doing. And not only, and then aside from that, I've kind of set up my business in a way that also allows me flexibility to work from home as well. So
mhm,
everything from our manufacturing, which we actually do still in the garage. We had rented a space in a shop near my workplace, actually, just so it would be close by, so I could go there after work or something if I needed to. But we've since brought that back to the garage. So we brought a bunch of things back um, as close to home as we possibly can, so that I can kind of make time for everything, right? So if I'm working on something and I'm spending time with family, yes, percent, things come up, and so you have to, go take care of business. But then the closer that business is to you, the easier you can address that issue, right? So it's having
mhm.
that flexibility at home where, if you're spending time with family, but you have to kind of put out some fires, for example, you can do that in the most convenient way possible. So you don't have to, drive an hour to your workshop to do something and then drive back. So bringing as many things close together is key and number one. And then the second thing is organization. I love to keep my things organized, both like even information, everything down to information, things that are important to remember, and you write them down. You have a very schedule things, right? So these are all things that I've been learning slowly over time, and have really helped me kind of structure my life to accommodate everything that I'm doing. And I would say I'm getting really good at it. So obviously you can't go on forever. I don't have kids yet, but I assume once I do, things are going to start looking very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm still learning, but I think I've been able to develop a system for myself that really helps me manage all of these things.
Yeah, I think those systems are, like you said, absolutely invaluable because where there's chaos, like nothing gets done, right?
Yeah,
Nothing gets
yeah.
done, and nobody is happy at the end of the day. And one of the things that I think people struggle with is how do you say yes to some things and how do you say no to some things? Because you have to start saying no in a lot of different ways. So, how do you think, sort of saying yes and no to different things, whether it's opportunities, whether it's spending time with certain people and sort of prioritizing and creating strong values within your own life? How do you go about doing that for yourself to make sure that there's sort of this homeostasis around everything that you're doing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be like self-awareness. You have to have the self-awareness first in terms of you know your business better than anybody else. So you know what you need to do for your
Mhm.
business. And and so, yes, tons of people will be, bombarding you with things, and you're getting, like, I don't want to say spam, but people will be reaching out for certain opportunities, and you know your business better than anybody, and so you should be able to determine what opportunity is going to be of most value to you.
Mhm.
And having that self-awareness is really going to help kind of filter out the noise essentially. So, I've had a lot of, emails from people, asking for all of these, certain types of opportunities, whether they want to work with me or they want to collaborate. But, ultimately, you need to determine what's going to be the 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 biggest impact for your business. And so I think having that self-awareness is really, really important.
Yeah, it absolutely is important because then I think it also falls back on, the purpose of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So the business has its own purpose, your life has its own purpose. And so, like, when you look at your purpose overall, because you're also working and running this business, do you feel like this business is very purposeful to you, and that's where you get all of that energy to sort of keep it going and that motivation to keep it going.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there are other reasons to run a business other than money, of course.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that purpose is one of the most important ones, because when times get tough, if you don't find fulfillment and enjoyment in that business, then it's very easy to just let it go.
Hmm.
So yeah, having that fulfillment from your work and what you're doing is probably the most important thing for I think any entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They have to really enjoy what they do. And even me, like, when you start a business, I like to say, like, you have to have a checklist for yourself, and this business has to check off as many of these boxes as possible.
Yeah.
So when I started this business, I was like, okay, these are my boxes. What are these requirements? You know, it has to be Obviously, some business that has the potential to make money, of course, that's standard. Um, but then, it has to, provide fulfillment. You have to enjoy the work. It has to be something that not many people can replicate. It has to be something that you can actually accomplish. It has to be challenging enough that you can kind of get into it, but you're going to be forced to learn a lot of new things, right? So these are all these check boxes, and I had a bunch. Won't be able to say it all off the top of my head, but there's a lot of requirements that you should look at before getting into any type of business. And the more check boxes it checks, the better I think that business is for you. And I think, I forget the saying, but it goes something like, there's product market fit, but there's also a founder business fit as well.
Yeah.
So that fit also needs to be, in line with what you're doing.
Hmm. I really, really love your checklist. It's not something I did, but it's probably something I need to do for my own business and, see does it check all the boxes. And I think maybe subconsciously I've done the same thing, but I think this checkbox, and having that list of things because one, it determines your values, right? That's you putting your values on paper,
Right.
what's actually important to you. And that's going to ultimately help you prioritize, like you said, when you're in the business and when it gets hard, right? How do you keep going when it gets hard? So I'm sure our audience is going to absolutely love that idea. If, someone is considering, starting a new business, they might still be doing their full-time gig. And I think there's so much that you have said so far in terms of how they can actually go about doing that in so many different ways. You've kind of given a really good roadmap that I think any and everybody, if they're truly interested in building their own business in this way, can absolutely do it.
Yeah, of course. And to even, I guess, add more to that is you would put the obviously the top priorities at the top of the checklist, right? And then work your way down to the least important things, and then check as many as you can.
All right.
Yep.
So, Cameron, can you explain to us exactly what Hydrosphere does and who is the customer that they serve?
Yeah. So at Hydrosphere, we design, develop, and manufacture atmospheric water generators, which are basically systems that generate drinking water from the air. And so, you can imagine the application would be anywhere that's off grid, that doesn't have access to a water line, remote communities, off grid, travel trailers, RVs, tiny homes, all of these markets uh, would be the ideal customer for Hydrosphere.
Yeah, yeah. So with your solution in Hydrosphere, you have been able to run this business for over 5 years, which is close to 5 years, which is huge congratulations because most businesses fail by year three. So you've passed that path of it. Your interest is still strong. What do you think is next for Hydrosphere? What do you envision bringing clean water means to the world and to the people that you serve even more?
I mean, definitely it would be like right now we're still kind of in that growth trajectory of really cementing ourselves within these markets that we've been able to enter. So in the short term, I guess the next little bit would be to like really cement that and to carve out that market share for ourselves within that space. But then, long term, we want to definitely expand our markets. There are plenty of markets that water from the air could be used in. Um, some of those include construction. remote construction sites,
Mhm.
agriculture, which is actually something that I've been delving into recently. Um, we've got humanitarian, disaster relief,
Yeah.
these types of things, even military, which is tough to get into, but is definitely a market.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do, and um, we do want to get involved with nonprofit organizations who are working to bring water to developing communities around the world. Um, but we're just not there yet. We're still trying to keep ourselves or grow ourselves, and so once we're in a position to be able to start delving into some of these not for profit projects, then that's something that we want to get involved in as well.
Yeah, that's really exciting to see that you're taking this beyond just serving your community, but putting a real human use case to it because water is survival. Like I watch a lot of survival shows,
Yeah.
like Naked and Afraid or Alone. And the very first thing that, everyone is most concerned about is water. Is like, do I have a source of
Yeah.
water? Is it clean? How can I drink it and not die or get diarrhea? Because once those things happen, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
So there's so much real human use case for it. And like us in Canada, we have the pleasure of having some of the biggest freshwater and clean water reserves in the world. So it's not necessarily a problem the everyday Canadian has, but it's so incredible that you have found a use case for that, even here right at home, where we technically have so much access to fresh water, but this solution is still there. So there's a massive market for Hydrosphere beyond Canada, and I'm really excited to see you guys take it to places where it's serving the people that want to reconnect with nature and live in nature, but also serving the people that absolutely need it on a daily basis. And very excited to see where that goes from there for you. So as we sort of get into the tail end of the podcast, we have three questions we like to ask our entrepreneurs. And the first one is, so you'll be giving us one word for each of these questions, but you can also tell us a little story about why. So the first question is, what is one thing you are leaving behind in your entrepreneurship journey so far?
Leaving behind. Now that you asked that question, I kind of want to clarify exactly what you mean by leaving
Yeah.
behind. Like leaving behind as in you're forgetting about it, or you want to kind of not, you know, deal with that anymore, or leaving behind as in like a legacy type leaving behind.
All depends on how you want to answer. Because some people have
Well,
given me some really interesting answers, and I'm like, I didn't see that wasn't the question I was anticipating being answered. But if that's the one you want to answer, then I'd love that answer.
yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
thing that came to my mind was I want to leave behind uh, the fear of reaching out.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so last year there was a lot of missed opportunities, I would say, in reaching out to potential clients and manufacturers that we could work with, just because of the feeling that I felt I wasn't ready, right? Or we weren't at a place where we should be for reaching out to these people. But again, these are all missed opportunities, and like I said, you miss all the opportunities that you don't take. So that's something that I want to leave behind, and hopefully um, I can continue conversations in the future, and they will eventually lead to value in the future.
yeah. But there's nothing stopping you from reaching back out to them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. So yeah. and I guess part of it is like, you want to have a good first impression, right? So you would reach out to
Mhm.
somebody, and if you're not ready and prepared, then it kind of ruins that first impression. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of that too. But again, you have to be able to find that healthy balance, and it all comes down to how you communicate that first interaction as well, right? So if you can do it in a good manner, if you can stay professional, and even if you're not ready, you can always revisit that conversation when you are. So
Mhm.
that's something that I want to leave behind and really work towards in the future.
I think that's really the perfect thing for you to leave behind, just based on our conversations, because how we sort of started this podcast was um, you being an introvert and, not feeling necessarily confident enough to have those questions and communicating more effectively. And I think one, being aware of that is so critical. And even in this conversation, you're so communicative, you're incredibly articulate, and you're easy to talk to. So I hope you take those as like real wins and never let it stop you from from engaging in opportunities that might take you um, in the direction you really want to go.
Yeah, that's really great to hear.
Yeah. So our next question is, what is the number one thing that you have learned in your entrepreneurship journey so far?
Well, one word answer would be collaboration.
Hmm.
Um, to expand on that, you can't do everything yourself, right? And if you want to do big things, you have to work with people, right? And being able to work effectively with people of all kinds is a really, really important skill.
Yeah.
And I think paid it's paid off really well for me to be able to learn and adapt um, on how to build effective relationships with not just people that I'm working with directly on a daily basis, but also our clients, our partners and manufacturers. Um,
Mhm.
so that I think is one of the most important things that I've learned. Obviously, aside from all of the technical knowledge I've had to learn in order to bring this business to where it is, but I think the relationships and collaborating with people is probably the most important thing that I've had to learn.
Yeah, I think that's such a critical thing in business because you can be the smartest, most technical person, but if you can't get along with people, if you can't sell to people, if you can't work with people, there are people that are making these decisions that impact your business absolutely every day. And so collaboration is key, and treating people well is key because they're the ones that are inevitably going to help you move that marker to the next milestone that you actually want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And our final question is, what is something you're taking into the future with you?
Well, I want to say resilience, um, and I guess to some degree persistence. It's been a huge roller coaster with ups and downs, like any business and any entrepreneur knows. And so it's important to stay, to keep the big picture in mind and to just keep pushing forward when challenges arise. So that resilience, I wanna continue to take forward into the future as we grow and expand our business.
Yeah, that's definitely key because markets are going to change, you know, and I think you've experienced this already when you were a personal trainer and you saw that, whoa, this is too saturated. I've got to get out, right? And a part of
Yeah,
resilience is knowing when you step away and find a new opportunity, which you've obviously stepped into. And so that's a fantastic thing to take into the future. I think you're a resilient person based on your story so far. I think anybody that's close to an immigrant story, which you you were born here, or
I was not.
you were
I was
immigrated.
5. I was 5 when I came. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's resilience. That's part of adaptation. That's all that's all part of it. So it's part of your whole story. And I'm very, very confident you'll continue to build that resilience and build it within your business as well. So there's so much longevity out of yourself and Hydrosphere itself.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so, the last thing is, how can people engage? Like, if we have some off-gridders, some RV loving summer road trippers, um, or even folks that are even thinking about living off-grid, a little bit more frequently, how can they get in contact with, Hydrosphere? Like, who would be the right customer for them so they can find themselves on your website and support your business?
Yeah. I mean, right now we're primarily B2B. So we're working directly with the manufacturers who
Mhm.
design and build the tiny homes, who build the travel trailers. But we've had several discussions with people who are the end users as well, who the
Yeah.
owners of the homes and the travel trailers. And so, yeah, if you're anyone who is a manufacturer in this space, or if you're an owner, or if you're thinking about getting into this space, even agriculture, greenhouses, these types of spaces as well. The best way to reach out is through our website, the contact form on our website. That's www.hydrosphere.com. That's hydrosphair.com. And all of those emails eventually come to me directly. So I'll be able to, that's the best way to get in touch with me personally.
Amazing, amazing. So, any manufacturers, anyone looking, to really bring fresh water to their customers off grid, Hydrosphere is it, and they're local, and that's even more exciting. Thanks so much for being here, Cameron, and having such a rich conversation with me, from business to your personal views to giving us great checklists. I'm really, really excited for people to utilize your checklist as they think about, perhaps starting their own business, and know that, you've done it so they can do it too.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're so glad to have you as part of our Buzzworthy community as we grow our network of buzzworthy businesses. Continue to follow us on all the social media platforms at buzzworthy_pod, and follow us on whatever platform you're listening to so that you can get the new episodes as soon as they're out. This Buzzworthy podcast could not be done without our incredible team, starting with our music by Khaled Imam, our video and sound engineer, James Clark, Yvette Robichaux, our social media manager, Cesar Cardania, our brand and creative lead, and finally, your host and executive producer, Shalacia Harris. We'll see you next week.